What's up, everybody?
What's up?
My name is Eddie D.
My name is Nicole.
And this is the Affinity Theory podcast.
Hey.
I guess that's what we're going to call it. I don't know.
I guess so. I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't know.
So, we'll probably have a different name for it by the time we get to this official launch date. But, as we're doing this now, we're just grateful for the opportunity to be able to share our thoughts about the book. You came up with this idea, did you? I feel like you did, because I didn't.
I don't know.
So the idea was birthed.
Cool.
The idea was birthed. Because we were listening to the Office Ladies, and how they were running their show, episode by episode, and doing their thing there. And so I think that's where the thought came in your mind that we should do the book chapter by chapter. And so, for those who don't know more like you do. I wrote this book entitled The Affinity Theory. It is the first book in the Affinity Saga. And it is my Power Ranger dream. I always wanted to be a Power Ranger growing up. And so this kind of gives me a way to live out my childhood fantasy of being a Power Ranger, and it's given us an opportunity to share our thoughts about the book. My wife and I have gone through this journey for the past 3 years, and I've heard everything under the sun about the thoughts and the feelings, but we're going to go through it one more again, because this is the first time we're actually going to run it through chapter by chapter as it's being read, rather than me, reading and then, coming up with initial thoughts and things. This is the first time she's actually sat down and read the book herself.
Yes.
And so we're grateful, and hope that you will enjoy these synopses and these analyses. And share this with your friends, share it with your enemies. If you don't have a copy of the book, go and get you a copy.
Yes.
Wherever books are sold. But again, we're grateful. And
and those books are sold on Amazon. As of right now, TikTok Shop, Shopify.
You can also get them at any of your retailers. At this point, at the time that this podcast will be released, it will be available in all the major bookstores. So you can go to Barnes and Noble. You can go to Books A Million. What's the other place? I'm thinking about Apple Books. You can go there as well and get you a copy of The Affinity Theory. We're not sure. I'm pretty confident I won't have the audiobook ready by the time this podcast comes out. But once it does, we will make sure that you know. So just be looking out for that as well. Yes. But you can get this book wherever books are sold. And so we're, again, just grateful that we get to share this love with y'all, man. Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited.
Okay. So where do you want to go?
So since we're doing it episode by episode, not yet.
Chapter by chapter.
Not yet.
Okay, right. Speak those things, Netflix.
Chapter by chapter.
Apple TV.
We'll start with the prologue today, but I know you were wanting to kind of hear my thoughts about it a little bit. And I am going to do a review of the book, but that review explicitly will be coming at a little bit of a later date on Eddie's TikTok channel. So y'all be looking out for that. Haven't decided exactly what day, but it will be coming out very soon. But a little bit, so I won't go into what I had written down because that is part of the review. But I do want to say the book is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because this wonderful man right here is my husband, but he does know that I am going to give it to him straight, and I am going to be very honest. And he knows if I don't like something, either my face will show it or I will say it.
Facts.
And I have just really loved this book. So I have to really like a book for me to sit down and read it and finish it.
That part.
Eddie knows that I have not finished many books. And this one I have finished, along with a couple of others that he's, given me as far as the genre of it. But this book, I actually stopped reading a book that I was reading. I was maybe 3 or 4 chapters away from finishing it. But when his book came, I just stopped, and then I just started reading the book, and I finished it before even finishing the other book. So the book is amazing, and I'm excited to be talking about it because it has a lot of good nuggets in it. He knows that I am one for, like, I have to have that visual. And so this book, it gives me that visual. And I feel like I'm giving y'all part of my review. So I'm going to hush about that right now. And we're going to start in the prologue.
All right.
So I know you have like a lot of thoughts because you have, I mean, first of all, thought about done, edited some more, and then edited some more when it was done and came out. So I want to know your thoughts first.
Yeah, so
of the prologue.
Yeah, so right off the rip.
That's what I wrote down right off the cuff. Oh my gosh, see?
So we're not thinking the same thing, I'm pretty sure. But right off the cuff, I wanted to let you guys know, when I originally wrote the prologue was supposed to be the dream sequence. And so when you get later on in the book, you will see the dream sequence that takes place in the book. That part, I believe, is in chapter 17. It's in chapter 17. That dream sequence was actually the prologue. That entire dream sequence is supposed to be in the prologue of the book. When I went to go do research on what agents like to see in the books that they're reading, a lot of people discourage dream sequences. They said the dream sequence, people don't like it because they think they're going with one thing and then come find out they're in something completely different. So now they got to get their whole mind right about something else. And so in thinking about that, I took the dream sequence out of the prologue and put the dream sequence in chapter 17. And so what you see in chapter 17, his dream sequence, that is the same dream that he has had over and over and over and over again that he's waking up from. When he says, no, I don't, no one does, not like this, that's actually the end of the dream sequence for him in the prologue. He's going to reiterate that line in chapter 17, and that's where the dream stops. And so then when we picked it back up in chapter 17, we actually fast forwarded through the dream sequence to get to that point in chapter 17 and then continue the chapter. But instead of that, I took the dream sequence out of the prologue so that again, trying to make the agents happy, only to come and do it myself. Yeah. at the end of the day. And so
I mean, either way, because I remember that dream sequence that you did, and I feel like either way, I would have been caught. The book would have caught my eye from the very beginning, because my first thought is, you already got me when I'm reading. No, I don't. No one does. Not like this. The frick? What's going on? And so I'm already like, okay, no one what? And so you already know, like, I like a good mystery too. And already in the prologue, this is not even the first chapter, but in the prologue, you already get this mystery about, the main character, Malcolm. And you also get this mystery about the team, because in the prologue, it talks about him, like on that very last page of the prologue, about Malcolm sensing that there is another motive for why the elite is being sent on certain missions. And so it's like, okay, so it's reminding me of like a
Captain America Winter Soldier.
No. Oh my gosh, what is our other one?
Jack Ryan, Reacher.
No, we have all their movies, all 8 of them?
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. It's reminding me of a Mission Impossible where there's something going on within the company that no one is talking about. And so it's like, I'm already wondering, okay, so what motive does the company have for them doing this? And so I'm already in, because it's a mystery. It's not just action. Action hasn't even really started yet until, the end of this prologue, when, you can see there something's about to go down. But it's just like the mystery of it, the mystery for him, the main character. So I'm already just locked in. I love in the beginning, in your book, like all throughout the book, you're giving like just the reality of life and the realness of what people go through, and how they deal with it, and how they try to come out of it. Even though it's still something that they're dealing with, they still have to not go over it or go under it, because they can't, because it's not going anywhere, but they have to go through. Like the problem that he's dealing with in the prologue is going to talk about. I'm going to try not to give too much about this book,
until we get there. No,
until we get there.
Yeah, no, listen, no, this
because
is
it's already there showing.
It's full of spoilers. Okay, so if you haven't read the book, you might want to turn this off.
Okay, because it's already there what he's dealing with as far as like the nightmares and stuff like that. But like him dealing with that, but still having to go through life and deal with, you know, the missions and his team and the company, and then later on his feelings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that you have the realness of life and the reality of what just people in general go through and how they deal with it. I love the fact when I read in here, you talked about the therapy, the five, what do you call it? The grounding techniques. Like, I'm like, okay, therapist, I see what you did there. Cause I remember that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like people don't think about that. And then when you read this book, it almost like gives you tips yourself.
Yes.
You know? And so it's not just, to me, it wasn't just something of an entertainment, but it was like, okay, let me try this. All right, when I'm going through something, let me see 5 things I see. Try to calm myself down.
Right. Right.
And I love that about even just the start of the book.
Yeah. And to credit my one of my beta readers, Malika Grant, she was the one who came back to me and said, "You're a therapist. You know this stuff.
Yes.
So put it in your book. Like, make us feel this. We don't feel what he's going through." When she did her read of it, she was like, I don't know how your people feel. So go back in there and put feelings in these things. You are a therapist. You know this stuff better than anybody.
Yeah.
And you want your readers to feel what they're feeling. No one can describe that better than the therapist can, because that's all we deal in is feelings.
Yeah.
And so going through Malcolm's drink, his waking up from the nightmares and trying to calm himself down, it's like all the things that I would tell a client to do, put it in there. And so sure enough, because of his power set, he literally can feel everything. Yeah. So why not be able to deal with his own feelings at the same time?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that not only is he the one who can feel every molecule in the universe, but he also is very in tune and dialed into his feelings. And so when his feelings are out of control, he not only has to control his power set, he has to control his emotions.
Yes.
He's got to control his feelings, because like you said, there's so much pressure on him to be the leader of the organization, to save the people, to defend people, to run the missions, and to then deal with his own life and deal with the members of his team. And so with all the pressure that half is placed on his own shoulders because he do it himself, and the pressure of life itself, how are you dealing with all that? How are you coping with it? Now, so I said, put the fact that he's in therapy in there.
Yeah.
Put the fact that he's in therapy. I thought at one moment to actually put a therapy session in the book, but for whatever reason, I decided against that at the end, because I felt like I would have to figure out why to put it in there.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be something that would interrupt the flow of the book. So I could just never find a place where it makes sense for him to be coming out of a session or going into a session or something to that end when the pace of the saga was going so fast. So I never got a chance to really to see if there was a way to put it in there at some point. But again, this is all post, before the beta read anyway. When I got that tidbit, so by then I'd have to write a whole nother chapter. And we ain't had time for that. Yeah. So
it's good the way it is.
Yeah.
It's good the way it is. And in doing, and I love the fact that in doing the whole therapy scene of the book, you also get a feel of what his powers are. Like, you don't just come out and say it. Like, you understand, okay, because he's talking about those therapy techniques. Like, you can sense the fact that he's summoned the molecules to obey his commands. Okay, He is something. His powers are very, very, very strong. And they're different. He senses the molecules. He notices different molecular structure. So it's like you kind of get a sense of what his powers are and like kind of how strong he is. And even in like his nightmares, like with the whole, that mystery of it all, you wonder, is that him? So is that the man who's that powerful? And so when you talk about his therapy techniques, it's almost kind of like, maybe that is him in the dream because of, what you write about right after. But yeah.
And that's why I wanted the dream sequence in the prologue. But at the same time, but it's great now. Like, I mean, listen, it's perfect. The way it's written is perfect now. But that was my original intent with the dream sequence. It was supposed to lead to the question you're asking: is he the man that he sees in his nightmares?
Yeah.
But now you don't really get now, and it's written perfectly now to me anyway. You don't get to really ask that question until chapter 17.
Yeah.
Is he the man? But by then he's answered his own question. He's answered his own question.
We're gonna go there.
Right. We'll get there. We'll get there. But again, the dream sequence was supposed to lead to that question that's supposed to be in our heads until we get to 17.
Yeah.
But like you said, the way that we have it here, what it really does is it gets us focused. I wanted it to be
in the beginning, but I'm glad it wasn't.
No.
I'm glad it wasn't.
I wanted it. Hear me. I wanted it to be in the beginning. Me listening to the agents ain't gonna like your book if you put it in there is what made me move it.
But I think it's perfect the way it is because you were able to put essence of who you are as well,
right?
Which is a therapy,
and it worked. And so it worked out perfectly. If we were to have it in here now, it would be too much.
Yes.
Chapter 1 would have to start with him waking up.
Yeah.
Because the dream sequence is too long.
It is.
And so it would have been this whole rush of dream. Then now you have a whole nother extra piece in there, and it would have been too long, too drawn out. So it ended up working out very well. But again, that was what my original intent was: is for you to wonder, who is this person in the dream? Who is that really him, or is that what was going on there? Why is he having this dream, and why does it keep recurring? But yeah, so I mean, it worked out perfectly. And like you said, leading up into you recognizing his power set, I wanted to go ahead and get it out of the way.
I like that.
Wanted to go ahead and get it out the way.
Question.
Right, because not only is he powered, but everybody in the book is powered.
You having to explain all that, it just would have been a lot more. And I feel like giving those little nuggets to show how they're powered instead of just saying, or instead of just coming right out and saying it, was kind of cool.
And so somebody had another person to tell me that. I think it might have been Malika who told me that too. Said that you're introducing your people too early. You're not letting us find out. You're telling us too much. So it's really informative. It's a bunch of information. When we get into chapter 1, we'll talk about this in greater detail. But that was one of the things that she had talked about in there too. She said, you're not really leading us to figure out what their powers are. You're telling us what their powers are. And so give us an opportunity to watch.
Yeah. Yes.
Give us an opportunity to see it.
Show, because I visualize all of this.
Yes.
When I'm reading, like each chapter, I am visualizing it. And that's what I love about a book, is that I can read it and I am seeing what I'm reading. Because, like even when you were reading it to me, but it just felt even better to like look at the words myself and then visualize it myself. I love it. And I love the fact that, this is a sci-fi book. Because already I'm like, I wish I had a stripe, because they don't just use telephones. They don't use phones. They use stripes. Yeah. And I'm like, boy, if I could just think to myself, hey, call such and such. Because as soon as he gets the message about the explosion happening in Leicester, Stephanie just pops up. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. That'd be, I don't know. It scared me at first. Might just pop up in
somebody pop in your head, pop in your ear.
But I mean, when it's happening to you and it's just something you're used to, I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
I think I like that about the book too, is that I feel like it's placed in the future. Like this is how far in the future, I don't know, or the past. I'm just playing.
I mean, depending on what world you live on, you know,
right?
Might be the present day for all we know.
But you like, it's not just his character that you introduce. I like that, the fact that he's the main character and he's like the only one introduced in the prologue, but you also introduce another important character who may not seem as important to people in this book, which is Stephanie. Stephanie has a big role in this book too.
Stephanie has a huge role in the saga.
Yes, like she is the one who like holds it down in the conference. What is the conference room?
Intelligence.
Intelligence. And so the fact that you kind of introduce her already, it kind of, I love how you did that in the prologue.
Let me speak to that, because originally when I wrote it, it was an AI unit that was talking to him. So it was just a robot that was speaking to him, telling him what was happening. And so as I developed the book and had Stephanie more involved, I said it would make more sense if the leader of intelligence, who's been riding with them this whole time, is talking to him now. Because who else would be talking to him? Like, there's no AI unit that's relaying any of this information to them throughout the rest of this book. The only time AI speaks to them is in this moment. And so it didn't make sense. And so it made more sense to go ahead and introduce Stephanie in here now. And in doing so, like you said, allow the reader to begin to recognize her importance. As we get later on into the book, when you see her again the second time, it's like, oh, okay, so she's not just somebody sitting at a desk like reading, you know, a computer screen, like a dispatcher. Like she's actually like running a whole show. And so it made sense for her to be the one to call him to say, hey, something's going down in the Leicester district, you know, and this is all the information that you need. Your team is coming and all that.
Yeah, I love that. And you already see in the prologue another important factor in this book that you probably won't really think about, and that's their cloaks. You won't find out until later that not everyone has one. I mean, but you can kind of guess in reading the prologue that not everybody has one, since the whole reason behind the robbery is to get one. But those are important as well, and you don't think about it, and we'll discuss that later, but like those are important for a reason, because they're not all the same.
Right.
And so I'm trying not to get ahead of myself.
No, go ahead,
but
man.
the fact
Go
that
ahead.
they're not all the same, the fact that they're not all the same plays an importance, because
but depending upon how powerful you are, and depending upon how powerful the people you're trying to fight are, will determine whether or not your cloak is strong enough to withstand a battle. Right. And that's one of the reasons why they're even going on the mission. It says that it's in the prologue. Like if this technology gets into the wrong hands, we gonna end up having to fight them a whole lot longer, and our cloaks might run out before theirs do. So we can't. So we can't let it get into the wrong hands, because if that's the case, they gonna figure out how to beat us, how to basically outlast us. And that's the thing. It's so cool we get to talk about this. And so that's what one of the things that I wanted to really emphasize, without it being too technical, about the book, in that everybody in this city more or less has powers. And so for some of them, they have lesser strength. Others, they got super strength, but they all have a power. Most folk are more so than not have powers in the city. Not everybody does, but a lot of people do. And so when someone decides to use their powers for evil, selfish purposes, you're gonna want to be able to outlast them. And so that's what the cloaking technology is for. It's so that we can outlast them in battle long enough to disable theirs before, having to hurt them, kill them, whatever. And so so the cloaking technology was really important to me. And actually, I got the cloaking technology idea from Dune. If you remember the movie, like I had already thought about it, but to see it in the movie, I was like, that's what it does. That's what it does. The difference between what happened in Dune and what happened in my book is that in Dune, the cloak only worked to a certain extent. So if a person like came and stabbed you, it could break through the cloak really pretty good if you give it enough force.
Yeah.
With my cloaks instead, it's like, no, we're going to hold it down, but depending upon how force it gives, it's going to drain the battery.
Yes.
And so
and you see that in chapter 1 when they start fighting.
Right. And again, the cloaking tech is not just for clothes. They're cloaking buildings. They're cloaking, things they don't want people to get to. Like the city and probably all of Uretha recognizes people got powers. We're tired of paying for building destruction. So if you have the money, we can buy the cloaking technology so that way the building doesn't have to be destroyed when somebody decides to go ham.
Yeah. And
that's what allows the city to keep being preserved despite the colossal battles that happen on the streets. Like some things get destroyed because, we like the stuff to blow up. But for the most part, in thinking all things through, we wanted to make it where they're not having to reconstruct the city every 15 minutes because somebody decided to go ham with their powers, or the defenders had to come in and do something. And so that was something that I took into consideration when doing the world building, that the cloaking technology, I wanted it to be something that would allow them to be able to battle in such a way to where they didn't have to kill people.
Yes. And you get to see that a little bit later because they throw some punches, not just at bad people, but at each other.
Yeah.
But I love it. I mean, the prologue is not that long, but it's like it's got a lot of good packed information. Like as you get near the end of the prologue, you start to see more and more how important this mission is they're about to go on. But for some reason, he doesn't feel that way because they have more than just one team. And so, they're supposed to go out on the quote unquote deadly missions. And so you kind of see his thought process as it gets toward the end of the prologue, that this to him is not a mission that's considered quote unquote deadly because he's questioning the company's motives for sending them out on a mission like this. Because he even says it seems like overkill. But then I feel like Malcolm, he kind of brushes his thoughts off a lot. And because of the fact that he says that he feels that it may just be like a play to win over the DD Corporation. And he kind of brushes that to the side, which is why I'm glad when we get to meet Simone, that kind of changes because she's not one to do that. But I guess he kind of, he doubts himself and like pushes his thoughts over and replaces them with something that seems more logical. And so I noticed that about him even in the prologue. And so I'm glad that, as we get further into the book, we kind of see how he grows and progresses and how he sometimes even pushes his thoughts further away, to try to get himself to not do something or act a certain way or feel a certain way. But it's crazy how he does that when even in the beginning of the prologue, he uses those therapy techniques. But
talk about it.
I don't know.
Talk about it.
He doesn't. He uses them, but he doesn't. I guess I don't know.
You tap dancing all over it.
I don't know. What am I tap dancing over?
The therapeutic process is a process, and so in some areas he's grown.
Yes.
Other areas he hasn't.
Yes.
And one of the areas that, because with everybody in the book, and you guys will see this the more that you're reading it, and we've talked about this. So let me big picture it, small picture it. Big picture it. This book is 9 books deep. This saga is 9 books deep.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that Nicole and I constantly battle over is the fact that we wish these characters would stop acting stupid. We wish they would. But like I've told her, and like I had to tell myself too, these characters need room to grow. And so if they do all their growth in book 1, then it leaves nothing for book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. And in my mind, book 5 is where we're going to see the most growth for all of the characters. because they all have to go through a process unto itself in order to get to what they need to get to in book 5. And so, so for these characters, they've all needed room to grow. Malcolm's issue is that he is a good soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And so he never wants to question the people who are over him.
Mm-hmm.
He always wants to do the right thing. But he himself questions what the right thing is and whether it's his place to be able to do what needs to be done, even if it means costing him his place in people's eyes.
Yeah.
And so, truth moment, that's one of my issues. It's one of the issues that I deal with. It's one of the issues that I've given him. One of my issues that I've given him, in that, for a long time, and you know this, I was always afraid of what other people are going to think. And so I would always do what other people wanted me to do I always did what I thought other people wanted me to do. So I was always timid about speaking my mind, mm-hmm. saying how I feel about things. And growing up, I always would, when I wanted to speak up, I would say what I wanted to say, but it would come out as anger. It was come out as frustration. And the reason being was because it was all bottled up. So I never knew how to fully articulate what I wanted to say or what I needed to say in a way that was more palatable. Mm-hmm. But even then, the people that I was telling what I was telling to, the reason why it would frustrate me so is because what I would say wouldn't move them. I was hoping that my words would make them act a certain way. So I wasn't saying what I wanted to say. I was saying what I thought would get them to move.
Gotcha.
When they didn't get them to move, I would then defeat myself. Oh, it don't matter that I said anything because I still. And it's like, dude, no, you got to let people do what they're gonna do. Mm-hmm. You got to say the truth and let chips fall where they may. And we see that in Malcolm's progression in this book, where it's just like, let the chips fall where they may. We're gonna say what needs to be said and just get it over with. Yeah. But again, that's what you see. And you see that happen, like you said, multiple times throughout the book, where he's like, I'm going to just say the right thing, or I'm going to do the right thing, even though in my mind, this ain't right. And it's funny because even, and we'll get to this later, his boss asks him, mm-hmm. what are you thinking? And like you said, you just push it further back. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Then we good. We good. Yeah. And so, so you're absolutely right. It's like in some areas we see growth mm-hmm. and progression, and in others we don't. And it's primarily because the nightmares themselves are affecting him. And so, put a plug in here. Often is the case where we will ask a therapist, or we'll ask someone to help us with something that's immediate and emergent. Mm-hmm. Nightmares are bothering him. Yes. They're nagging. They're the nagging thing. So I'm going to go to therapy and go get my nightmares taken care of.
Keep going.
Go, say it.
When that is not the root of the problem. Like, the nightmares are just a symptom of what the real problem is. Just like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When we get sick. Yep. Like, the runny nose is not the problem. Nope. Yes, it's a problem, but it's not the root. So you can take things all day long. Mm-hmm. But if you're not fixing the root of the problem, the runny nose is not going to go away.
Or it's going to turn into something else.
It's going to turn into something else.
Because what will happen is we'll get the over-counter meds, we'll get rid of the runny nose, but your head is stopped up. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's causing runny nose. Like, your body's actually doing what it's designed to do. I'm mm-hmm. running nose because there's something going on in here that's causing me to have my nose run. Go get that figured out. Yeah. You stop all of this. But again, we want to solve the symptom. And so, like you said, he's got the techniques that solve the symptom, but it's a much deeper issue.
Deeper issue.
Right. I can't tell you how many people I've gone into therapy with, and they come in with the initial issue, but by the time we get either to the end of the session or the end of like 3 sessions in, we realize mama issues, daddy issues, growing up issues, trauma issues. When you were for instance, in the 5th grade, spelling bee, you failed, and everybody laughed at you. And rather than your teacher teaching you a lesson about winning some and losing some, he now makes you the proctor of the spelling bee. So you never get to try again and realize that, hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you got to get back up and you got to get back in there. Yep. And that was a lesson that I learned that, if you're not going to be a winner, then just don't do it at all. Yeah. Like, those things, they manifest themselves. Now you're in therapy at 37, 38 years old, dealing with something that happened when you were 10. Yeah. Like, those are the things that a lot of times we don't realize that we're dealing with. And that's why it's imperative that when we do seek help, that we seek the roots.
Yes.
Don't just seek to get rid of the symptoms. The symptoms are always a symptom of a much bigger issue. And that's what we said. That's what we saw happen here. I got something for the nightmares, but even if you notice, the nightmare still ain't gone.
The nightmare still ain't gone. He wakes up screaming.
Wakes up screaming. So now instead, I'm just calming myself down because I'm sure the next mission is coming. I don't have time to deal with the deeper issue. I need to calm myself now. Mission comes. Okay, I'm calm enough. I can go.
And it's just a distraction.
It's just
and we all go through those distractions. Like throughout this book, you see the growth of everyone. But it's a slow growth.
Slow.
And it irks me.
Slow.
It irks me, especially with, the main character. And I'm going to get to that, when we get to it. But it is a slow growth. But it's, like I said, this book, it shows just a lot, even starting in the prologue, it just shows a lot of the realness of everyday life.
Yes.
And what people deal with, what people go through, and things that they do to try to get through what they're going through, not understanding that they're not getting through it. They're just putting a Band-Aid over it.
Yes.
And that's what he's done here. He's just putting a Band-Aid over. And, I commend him because he has gone through therapy, but it's like, and you'll see later in the book, it's probably for a reason why they haven't gotten to the root of the problem. But it's just putting a Band-Aid on something, and a Band-Aid doesn't always hold up. A Band-Aid is going to get old and it's going to start to peel. And as it peels, you get what you get in the beginning of this prologue. Him waking up, not getting rest, but then using those methods to just cover it up with another Band-Aid. But like you said, it is a slow growth. And I love that it's a slow growth because it's reality.
Yeah.
We don't grow overnight, and we don't get it like that overnight. Like, we don't get it like that in a week, 2 weeks, a month. A lot of times, not a year. Sometimes that growth takes our lifetime. And so I love this about even just the prologue and that little bit of a few pages. Like, you get all of this, and you just learn so much about him without even knowing it.
Yeah. And I'm in the fact that, it's every day. That's where a lot of the inspirations came into play, because I didn't want this book to feel like it's colossal of giants as these people are. And I mean, these jokers are colossal giants.
Yeah.
Like, when you see the drag out fights these jokers get into, like, they are juggernauts, but they're also human.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with everyday life stuff just like anybody else. I think that's why I prided myself in making everybody powered. I didn't want, making a vast majority of people powered. I didn't want it to feel like, they're special. They are special. They're gifted, but it would, when you level that playing field in terms of the writing, when you level the playing field and make, in my particular case, make everybody powered, it makes the powers themselves not special. Because how do they say it in The Incredibles? If everybody's special, then nobody's special. And I didn't want to make their powers what make them special. I wanted them to be special because we'll get into it in I think it's in chapter 5, 6. I think it's in chapter 6. I think it's either in 6 or 7. 6, 7, or 8. I don't know, one of them. Anyway, in one of those chapters, Malcolm and Simone are having a conversation, and they're like, why'd you join the company? Why'd you join the company? And in that conversation, they're saying, people are out here just trying to live life. They're trying to do what they do. They're trying to make money. They're trying to pay their bills. They're trying to do all the normal stuff. And so every now and then, you got people who want to act stupid. So here we are to try to help them so that they can go in and live their lives, live normal lives. And what I've seen in a lot of books do when it comes to people with powers is that they're special. And so they're either they don't want to be special, or they're special among normal people. So that makes them these gods. in these people, and I didn't want my book to feel like that. I didn't want it to feel like, oh, these guys are special, let's bow down and worship them. No, or, oh, I'm special, I need to hide my powers from everybody because I'm scared if they find out who I am. Then I didn't want my book to read like that. Number one. Number two, I made them grown. What I didn't want to do is have them. I didn't want to make them teenagers. I didn't want them having a coming of age story. Like I've seen so many people do. I didn't want it to be, young adults where they're still trying to figure out life. I want these people that going through some stuff, live life enough to where we're kind of just dealing with life. We're dealing with grown stuff. And in that, it helped to flesh out the story a whole lot better because we're not trying to figure out puberty. We're not trying to figure out my first crush. I love that. We're not trying to figure out, rebelling against my parents because they saying something and I'm saying something different. I've seen that story written so many times.
So many different shows. You think about those shows where people trying to hide their powers and hide who they are. Like I love that this book, you're not hiding who you are. No. Like you're living. You're living. And you're dealing with normal life problems as a power. Among people who are not powered as well.
Yes, exactly. Which book to come out next year. Kudos. But
we don't see that right here.
We don't see it right here.
But we're gonna see it in a little bit. So yeah, I mean that really is the prologue hit. Like all of that unpacked it. Like Malcolm. You see, first of all, you see who the main character of this book is. And like you find so much out about him to where you kind of know him already a bit. Like who is he's the one that Stephanie contacted, so you kind of already know, okay, he's the leader. He's the leader. He's the leader. And so this first episode. This prologue. Y'all, I'm so used to Lord have mercy, just slipped out of the tongue.
Hey, we speaking it, man. Netflix, holla at your boy.
The prologue is packed with so much. Like it's almost like you can't. And okay, there's some books where I have to like read it and then like reread it to be like, okay, I get it now. No, I'm like reading this book and I'm like, ooh, I see this. And the reason why I would go back and reread something is like, ooh, I got to see that again. It's almost like rewinding and be like, I got to see that again. Like, I can't wait till we get to the chapter. My favorite maybe my favorite chapter in the book, but my favorite conversation in this book. We won't get to it for a while, but I'm probably going to take time and read that whole little scenery because that's one of my favorite conversations in the book. But I mean, that's the prologue in a gist. And so I mean, you get so much out of it in just that little bit. So much. And that's probably, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, that's probably going to be the shortest part of the book.
It is the shortest part.
It's the shortest part of the book.
But it's packed with so much.
The chapters are long.
Yes, they are.
But they're good.
The chapters are long,
but they're good.
They're good. And just to piggyback off of that, the chapters are long, but the chapters are long in this book so that it sets the stage for the next books. Like I really wanted to make sure that book one did a solid job of all the world building. We're trying to build the characters as well as we are while allowing the ones who are in the center to take center stage. Because one of the reviewers who wrote the review on Amazon said that they wish that we would have spent more time on the other characters, and I disagreed with that. In that, we're doing it's a 9-book saga.
So you're going to get to know them. And I think that's why it's good that you are putting that out there, that it is a 9-book saga, because I think people are looking for things in this book that you would get in other books that are just like 1 or 2 books deep. Like this book is not like that. It's almost like you have to think about a show. Like you don't get everything in one episode.
Talk about it.
And so you have to, in one season, like you have to leave room to grow. So, I mean, I just like those who are reading the book, like just remember that This is not just a 1 book or 2 book deal right here.
It literally,
this is 9 books.
Literally says it right there.
And I know, and you're like already 4 books in, so that's how. And so no, it's not gonna change.
No.
It's gonna
be
9
what it
books.
is. It's gonna be 9 books deep.
You just have to
at least
first of all get the book, stick with us, and just
go for the ride. Go for the ride.
I promise you're gonna love it. I mean, I love it. And I'm a hard person to please when it comes to books because of the fact, like, I have to be very interested. I have to, like, it really has to catch my attention. I think I am more of a fiction book reader, but but the fact that in the fiction books you find so many nuggets in them that a nonfiction book may have, or a quote unquote self-help book may have, like it just catches my attention more because one, I can read it, but I can see it as I'm reading it. And I think that's what we're going to see as we go through these chapters. The fact that there are so many nuggets in this book that deal with real life situations. And I love that you implement that in this book a lot. Yeah. But you just have to, you have to be aware. Yeah. Like, this is a book where, yeah, you can sit and read it for entertainment. But if you are one of those like people who likes to dig deep with stuff, like you can do either or. You can sit and read it for entertainment and not think about anything, or you can sit and read it for entertainment and think about, I see what you did there, sir. And so it could go either way. Right.
There's a lot of things that are happening in the book, but there's a lot of things that happen in the book, and my goal was not to make it so busy. Yes. While simultaneously trying to build a world that we could then launch from without me having to reiterate a lot of stuff about the world in the other books. Yeah. So, I'm not expecting book 2 to be as big as book 1 in terms of like its size, its page numbers. I'm not expecting, even its word count is like 70,000 words less than this one. The 3rd book, same thing. 4th book, same thing. Now 5 might be big, like because of how colossal those scenes are going to have to be to get us to book 6. Yeah. But again, the world building that we've done in book 1 is to set the stage so that we don't have to reiterate a lot of things. 1, 2, the main characters, Malcolm and Simone, they're the main characters for a reason. Like, we need their story. The other characters will get their times to shine without question. And that's why I say, gotta go get the other books. When they come out, you gotta go get the other books.
Get this one first, though.
Go get this one, because you're gonna need this one. Yeah. But when the other books come out, you get to see more of their stories build as well. And so some of the characters who you're like, I wonder why they do this, or I wonder why they do that, you're not gonna get it in book 1. But you might get a piece of it in book 2. Exactly. Might get a piece of it in book 3. Exactly. Might get a piece of it in book 4. You for dang sure gonna get it in 5. Like I keep probably going. You think I'm selling y'all pipe dreams? 5 is where you really get to see everybody get their moment in the sun, in a big way. That's why it's, again, hang on for the ride, because book 1, it sets the table. It's really a table setter to get you into the world, get you to understand the powers, understand the characters, understand the stakes, understand, the bad guys, all that type of stuff, and understand the dynamics of all the mechanics of the world. So that way, when we get to book 2, get to book 3, we're not having to reiterate all that stuff. Yes. You take half of the world building out of this book, you get books 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, and 6. Because again, we've done all the world building in book 1 necessary to set the table. And in doing so, it gives more room for the other characters to shine. Yeah. Because we can't put it all in this. Yeah. What I did not want to do, I know some people have done this. There's a dude right now, Brandon Sanderson. He wrote a 1,000-page book called The Way of Kings. That book is 1,000 pages long. I don't know what that book about, but everybody swear by it like it's the best book ever. So I'm going to get it. One day, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to see what y'all talking about. But what I didn't want to do is to make a 1,000-page book. I'm Eddie. Listen, we're going to have a talk. When it hit 500, I was already scared. Because everybody I was talking to, agent wise, you don't want your first book to be more than like 100,000 words. I'm like, well, I'm already at 150. So what can I? And so this is why. What can I cut out of this?
Yeah.
Where the story's still being told.
I think it's a good size book. I mean,
no. I think it's perfect. That's the thing. Like I said, going back to when we were trying to do agents before going independent.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how am I going to cut stuff out of here? Like, I've already cut as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, even when I gave it to the editor and I told the editor, I need you to trim this down by 30,000 words. You know how many words you trimmed it down by? 300. Not 30,000, 300.
Because it's needed.
You need, every word was needed. That's why I was like, I basically paid you to clean up some syntax. I didn't really do anything. And then when Malika comes in and tells me I don't feel your people, I'm like, oh my gosh, I went and added about 2,000 more words after that. So again,
you got to do what you got to do for your book and how the
vision that you have for it. And that's part of the reason why I went independent at the end of the day, because I remember telling you this. I said, I'm scared they're going to tell me to take something out this book. Mm-hmm. And I have been, and I can say that I've been very intentional about everything that I put in it. Mm-hmm. Everything has a purpose. And so even the smallest of details, they matter, especially for me, because as I go into book 2 or go into book 3 or whatever, I'm calling back a minor detail that shows up in a major way. Because even when you were trying to figure out in book 3 a certain person, who is this person? I kept telling you, you've already seen this person in book 1.
Yeah,
like,
you just
my God, who is this person?
Real like subtle.
Who is this person?
Like, you have to pay attention.
You gotta pay attention. It's that little minute detail that ain't nobody paying attention to. Mm-hmm. It shows up in a major way in the subsequent book. It's like, bruh, I never would have thought, and it's because I set it up that way.
Yeah.
I set it up that way because I'm not gonna say nothing. Y'all gonna have to read.
Yeah.
Find out.
I love it.
Who?
I love it. But like we said, as we are reading the chapters, chapter by chapter of this book, and what are we calling this? Like reviewing it or just going over the chapter by chapter? They're going to be some spoilers. So, I mean, I say read it with it. You know what? Read it with us.
Read it with us.
We're not going to do more than a chapter
a
each
pod.
time.
So there's going to be 30 pods, 31 pods at least. 32, 30 chapters into a prologue and an epilogue. So it's going to be at least 32 pods.
Yeah.
32 episodes. So read it with us.
Read it with us. And I mean, some kind of way, maybe we can figure out if you got some questions about it,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can post those, see if I don't know, what can we do? And I'm pretty sure if they have questions for you,
I'll figure it out. Yeah. Write it down or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
I think that'll be a good idea.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I like that.
Man, that's the prologue. I'm already ready, for
love my babies. I love my babies.
I'm already ready for chapter 1 and to jump into that.
Yes.
Because the prologue itself was just amazing to me.
Sets it up.
As soon as I read the prologue, I was like, okay, let's go.
Hey, how he said it, let's get it.
Let's get it. And I didn't want to say anything, but that has been like one of my little go-to. Let's get it. So I think you're gonna kind of fall in love with some of their like catchphrases and things they say, and because I do find myself every now and then some of the things in the book, just find myself in life starting to say them.
That's right.
So I mean, y'all love the book. That's the prologue.
Yes. Listen, follow me on all the social medias under Eddie D Writes. Eddie DEE Writes. You find me Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads. Those are the big 4. You can also find the stores on Linktree. Just look for Linktree / Eddie D Writes. And you'll be able to find all the links that we have there for the books, for the pod, the whole 9 yards. And send us questions, send us comments. We'd be more than happy to go through, filter through, answer any questions that you have about the book, how about, the process, the whole 9 yards. And I just want to send a huge thank you to everybody who has supported the book.
Yes.
Everybody who's bought a book, everyone who has come to me with advice, with direction, with guidance. Those who who helped to put the book in production. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for making this possible. We would not be able to do this podcast without y'all.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for all the support that you've given us. And as we always say on every podcast we've ever done, if you can't see the good,
see the good.
We love you guys. Peace out, homies.